Hi everyone, Joshua again, and welcome back to another video on my YouTube channel. Today I thought I'd do a video on specifically strength training from home. I know at the moment there's a lot of free online workouts out there at the moment on Instagram and Facebook that are mainly aimed at HIIT or sort of more circuit based sort of sweaty workouts, but I know there's a lot of you out there who are interested in actually doing some proper strength training at home. So I'm currently working with lots of my clients at the moment on strength training from home, so I thought what better opportunity to make a video on YouTube to give you some advice that you can start to implement straight away. So first of all, the question is there any main differences between strength training in the gym or strength training at home? Well, the easy answer to that question is no. The same principles that you would use in the gym would be exactly the same that you would use at home. The only difference with strength training at home is that normally there are some more limitations that you have to be aware of. The main limitations that I tend to see when people try to do strength training from home, number one being a lack of space in their house where that's suitable to do the strength training itself in. And the second one, probably being the bigger out of the two, is a lack of equipment that they need to put enough stress on the muscles to actually cause the strength training adaptation that they're looking for. So hopefully by the end of this video, you'll have enough information to help you get around those two main issues. So how do we actually make a muscle get stronger in the first place? If we can answer that question confidently, then it makes it easier to select the right approach when we're at home. So to cause a muscle to get stronger, we initially need to learn how to recruit that muscle in the first place. This is why learning proper exercise technique is so important when it comes to strength training. If we cannot recruit the muscles that we're trying to strengthen, we've got no chance of actually getting them stronger. So for example, if we're using a press up to strengthen your chest and your triceps, when you're actually performing the push-up, are we actually feeling that chest muscle fatiguing? If you are performing squats to strengthen your glute muscles, are we actually feeling those glutes engage? Are we actually feeling them fatigue as you're performing the sets and reps in your session? So what I would do is, before designing a strength training program for you to do at home, I would spend a few sessions just working on technique and make sure that you can feel the right muscles that you're trying to strengthen first. Once you have learned how to safely and efficiently recruit the right muscles, we need to introduce some progressive overload into your training program. So what progressive overload means is essentially that as you work through your training program, the challenge that you are putting on your muscles also has to increase. If I can do 3 sets of 5 push-ups in week 1, then as the weeks go on, I'm looking to increase the amount of reps that I'm doing. So I might look to do 6 reps in week 3, 8 reps in week 7, etc, etc. So as you can see, that as the program is going on, so is the amount of work and the amount of challenge that I'm putting on my muscles. If you are not looking to challenge your muscles harder over time, essentially your strength training program will not work over the long run. So one of the ways that we can increase the challenge on our muscles during a training program is obviously to use load. In a gym environment where we have dumbbells and kettlebells and barbells, it's very easy to slowly increase the amount of weights that you have each week or each month. But obviously at home, not all of us is going to have enough space or enough money to be able to purchase all of this gym equipment that we will need. But thankfully, for a sensible beginner's strength training program, you don't need all that equipment. If you've never done any strength training before, a lot of people can make fantastic progress by just using their body weight. Using your body weight to start with can give you a much needed amount of time to learn proper technique and execution before looking to increase the challenge with external weight. But once using your body weight becomes too easy, remember I said earlier we need to progressively overload your muscles, then you may need to introduce some equipment into your training program. If you don't have any gym equipment at the moment, the most easiest thing I can recommend you do is to get yourself a nice strong rucksack. The good thing about having a rucksack is it's cheap, it's affordable, it doesn't take up too much room, and it's very easy to add or take away load from a rucksack when we're working through our training program. So if you have a strong enough rucksack where you can start with 5 kilos in the rucksack and slowly over months add up to 20 kilos, you've got months and months and months of available progress there just by using something as simple as a rucksack. If you do have a little bit of extra cash available to you, the other piece of equipment that I would recommend that you do buy would be 1 to 2 sets of dumbbells. I'd probably buy 1 pair of lighter dumbbells that you could move for your much sort of smaller movements, and I'd probably buy 1 pair of heavier dumbbells that you can use for your larger movements. So to start off with, if you're on a budget, I would just have a nice strong rucksack or if you have a little bit more money at your disposal, I would just buy 2 pairs of dumbbells as well to go with it. Now with those pieces of equipment, there's not many exercises that you won't be able to do effectively. And also you should have enough progression there in terms of weight to last you several months into your training program. So those are 2 pieces of equipment that have got really good return of investment. So once you've got your pieces of equipment and now you're looking to start strength training from home, what I recommend you doing at the start would be performing 3 full body workouts per week. Now quite simply, when I say full body workouts, what I would do is I would pick 2 lower body movements, 2 upper body movements and 2 core movements, and those exercises would make up the main bulk of my session. So what I'm going to do now is show you a little example of a full body session using the equipment that I mentioned earlier, just so you can see how you might put it together. So we're starting off here with a nice simple lower body exercise. I'm using a rucksack here to help me perform some rucksack squats. I'm coming down nice and slowly on the descent and squeezing my glutes nice and strong on the way up, back to the standing position. Now I've got 15 kilos in this bag, and obviously as the weeks go on, I'll be looking to add a little bit of weight when possible to ensure that I'm adding some overload to the program when I can. As you can see, every rep is under control and I'm trying not to rush things at any time. So we have our first upper body exercise now. Some half kneeling shoulder presses with one of my lighter dumbbells. I think there was about 12.5 kilos on this dumbbell, but obviously make sure you pick a weight that is suitable for you. My glutes and abs are tight at all times to make sure that I'm sort of stabilized as I'm shoulder pressing. But just like the squats, every rep is performed under control. I'm not looking to rush at any time. So our second lower body movement is some rucksack reverse lunges. This time I've got the rucksack on my back like you would normally wear a rucksack. And I'm slowly taking a nice step backwards, bending at both knees simultaneously. That should lower myself nice and gently down towards the floor. And then pushing back through that front leg to return to the starting position. I've got enough weight in the bag to make sure that it's a challenge, but every rep is achievable. Our second upper body exercise is going to be some bent over dumbbell rows. So these dumbbells are a little bit heavier than the ones I was using in my shoulder press. My abs are tight, my spine is as parallel to the floor as I comfortably can whilst keeping a straight back. And I'm drawing my shoulders behind me, squeezing my shoulder blades together at the top to make sure that I'm getting a nice contraction of my upper back muscles. Nice and smooth, and again not moving too fast at any time. So my first core movement of the session is a plank with shoulder taps. So I've got a normal plank position, but my hands are narrow and my feet are wide. I am touching my left shoulder with my right hand and then touching my right shoulder with my left hand, keeping my abs and glutes squeezed at all times to resist any rotation sort of through the torso. So you're trying to keep your back nice and steady throughout the movement. So my second core exercise is a dead bug. I've got my lower back pulled nice and tight into the floor here whilst I'm extending one leg and one arm. As I extend my leg and arm, I'm trying to stop my lower back from arching at any moment. So I'm pulling my rib cage down into the floor and you should feel your abs engage very tightly there. So again, no rush, just nicely controlled throughout the whole set. So once we've got our equipment and we've got our rough session plans already drawn up for us to do, we need to have a think about sort of sets and repetitions and how many times we're actually doing these exercises during our session. Now when we talk about sets and reps when it comes to exercise, it's very easy to overcomplicate this. Effectively, what we're trying to do is make sure that we're doing the right amount of dosage of exercise to ensure that we get a positive response from that session. If we don't have enough training stimulus on our muscles during a session, then we're not going to get those positive adaptations that we're looking for during our sessions. But likewise, we can also do way too much. If we apply too much training stress during a session, we may not be able to train for another week because we're so sore and tired after the actual session we've done. So what this will do is it will harm the amount of sessions that we can actually do in that week. So it really is important to make sure that you get the amount of training that you do right. If you are a beginner or new to strength training, what I would recommend is keeping things nice and simple and just performing 3 sets of each exercise that is lined out in your training session. After a couple of weeks, if you're finding that the training sessions are too easy, it's easy to then add more training from that point. If you go from the other side and do way too much training during a training session, you're going to be so sore that you're not going to be able to train for another week after that. So I think it's much better to start from the bottom and work your way up, rather than doing too much and going, oh wow, that was way too much. So just to recap, just start with 3 sets per exercise, and you can always add more as the training block goes on. Now, as this is a home strength training program, what I recommend you do is with your made movements that you try to work in that 6 to 8 rep range. In a traditional strength training program that you would normally do in a gym, most people would probably stick to in and around 5 reps and sometimes go as low as 3. But as we're strength training from home with minimal equipment, it is unlikely that you're going to have loads heavy enough to make it worthwhile training in the 3 to 5 rep range. Also, as we said earlier, if you're a beginner, there's no need for you to train with that amount of weight to get the positive adaptations that you need. Starting in that 6 to 8 rep range is a nice safe place to start. Now, once you've done your main strength movements for the day, some people may decide to sprinkle in some secondary work into their session. Now, secondary work might be where people decide to allocate some additional work to certain areas or certain muscles in their body that they want to specifically improve. So an easy example might be if you want to do some more specific arm work in your session, you may sprinkle this in at the end of your session after you've done your main strength movements. Now, generally with these secondary movements, you probably use the more 10 to 15 rep range, which is more your hypertrophy or endurance based rep range. Now, where you might use 3 sets per session for your main strength movements, as this work is only secondary, I recommend that you only start with 2 sets per movement. Now, the reason why we do this is to make sure that we're not doing too much work during that session, and we're able to come back in a couple of days' time and actually do another training session. Accumulating quality training sessions over a period of time is actually what's going to give you the results. What we don't want to do is put 150% of your effort into one training session and then only be able to put in 50% for your remaining training sessions of the week. This is definitely an easy way to harm your progress over the long term. So there you go, guys. There's an introductory session for strength training from home. If you found my videos really useful so far, I'd really appreciate it if you press the thumbs up button below. Getting more likes on my videos will make it easier for other people to find them and benefit from the content inside. If you are feeling very generous today, I'd really appreciate it if you could hit the subscribe button too. So thank you very much for watching my video today, and I look forward to seeing you on the next one.